Hello, everybody. Welcome to Retirement Unscripted. I say welcome, but we hope we're actually being accurate when we say welcome back, right? Welcome back to Retirement Unscripted. I am 5% of the Retirement Unscripted team. The other 90% is Jeff Cornwall down there in Panama City Beach. How you doing, Jeff?
Good, thanks.
And John Fassnacht in Austin, Texas. This is a place where we have conversations where we explore the design of the next stage of life through the lenses of creativity and wisdom and freedom and value. We have no agenda other than curiosity and insight, and we offer no advice, make no judgment, and don't claim to have any right answers. So again, Retirement Unscripted, I think it's fair to say, gentlemen, that we very quickly built a double-digit audience, and I think we may have a triple-digit audience right now.
We're on the verge.
Yeah, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. I'm a little confused as to why we haven't heard from Netflix yet. They just raised my monthly rate 50 cents, so I'm sure they are eager to invest some of that in the Retirement Unscripted media empire. So again, we're glad you're here. If you're listening or watching, we have a good guest today, and we hope and we know it'll be a good conversation. I'm going to flip it over to you, John, to introduce our guest today. Why don't you do that for us?
Sure. Welcome to everybody. Welcome back, like Joe says. We hope that's a more accurate salutation. I want to introduce Bob Friedman. There he is. Bob, and he has a nickname. We call him Bib, but he responds to both. I will say this. Bob and I I was thinking about this, Bob. We've been friends for 40 years.
Yes, we have.
We've known each other since 1985, thereabouts. Bob is here in the Austin area as well. Very interesting kind of little history. So our family, the Fassnacht family and the Friedman family met in Prescott, Arizona. I worked at the same hospital as Bob did. And what's interesting is that my wife and Bob's wife, Tammy, went to nursing school together. So we've had kind of a family connection, if you will, all along. And then we Fassnachts went off and wandered off into other parts of Texas. And as it turns out, several years ago, Bob Friedman and his family wandered into Pflugerville, Texas, just a little bit north of Austin. And so we're reconnected again. So I'm very happy to see Bob, and I know Bob's got a story to tell us.
Let's take it from there and give you a little bit of my background. Besides knowing John and his family for decades now, I retired from healthcare. I still am a board certified family physician and hospice and palliative care physician, and a certified hospice medical director. And I spent part of my time in Prescott, Arizona, and I was involved in hospice there along with private practice. Then when we moved out here in 2006, I went full-time hospice and palliative medicine, and I ended up being chief medical officer for a local hospice here that's been around for like 40 some odd years at this point also. And of course, I was only with them for 11 years, but it was a great experience. I basically couldn't have worked for a better organization, and I couldn't have asked for a better career with them, so that I felt very satisfied. And then in 2020, I woke up one morning and rolled over in bed and told my wife, I think I need to retire. I figured I was at the peak of my skills, actually probably just a little past. I didn't want to overdo it and stay too long. And there were other people I had been collaborating with and also training and grooming for taking my place. And I wanted them to be able to step up because I figured they could outshine me, and they actually have. So in 2021, in October, I retired, and I was really excited about that. I got talked into consulting, doing administrative hospice consulting, educational consulting for about a year and a half or so, just to help out a friend. I will say it paid well, but that's not why I did it. And after a year and a half, I said, this is not what I want to be doing, because I had really in the background, I'm sorry if my dog's backing in the back. He likes to talk a lot. Hopefully my wife will hear him and move him out of the way. Little tiny chihuahua. Anyway, so all along though, I've had an interest in music besides an interest in spending time with my family. So,
Well, I'm going to stop you right there because we're going to talk about your retirement, but you have to answer this question first. What the hell is Elroy Pup?
Elroy Pups is actually turns out to be a unique band name. And Elroy Pups is a blend of Leroy and Ella, our two little chihuahuas. They're 15 years old and they're going strong. And when I was looking for a name, that kind of it hit the mark. And when I actually plugged it in, if you look like a search for Elroy Pups on Spotify or Apple Music, there was no one. So I thought, well, this is perfect.
I have a question.
Band. Yeah.
I have a question about your career.
Sure.
So you spent most of your career in hospice and palliative care. Is that correct?
I would say
Certainly the latter part.
Yeah, I
Okay.
overlapped. I also was in private practice, family medicine until 2005, right in there, 2005, 2006. But I began with hospice care back in 1995.
I'm curious. In working that field, were there some lessons or insights that you got that informed your decision, your transition into retirement at all?
I guess I was, like I said, I was really fortunate. I got to work with really quality people who are dedicated. You have to be really dedicated to go into hospice and palliative medicine, and on all levels, administratively and healthcare delivery, and that kind of reminded me that I needed to stay grounded in who I am. I'm a big fan of not letting a career, and maybe this doesn't work for other people, but I'm not a big fan of letting the career define who I am. And so I was able to express myself in ways that I couldn't have had otherwise, but in the end, I knew it was time to move forward.
Did you learn any lessons from the patients that you all cared for? Because that's really, you're at the very end of this next stage.
Right.
And I just wonder what kind of insights you gained from working with that population.
I would say that, in all fairness, that I probably learned more from all the people I took care of than the education that I imparted to them. And part of being in healthcare, but especially in hospice and palliative medicine, is being a listener. And honestly, 40 years ago, I was not a good listener. But over time, I learned to be a better listener. I'm still a work in progress. My wife will probably tell you. So I learned a lot. Everyone dies. So everyone comes from all walks of life. And oftentimes we don't get to experience that in our lives. But I was fortunate to be able to do that. And what I really appreciated most of all was being able to go into people's homes and be part of their life, not them coming to an office where, we ran the show and then we delivered healthcare. I was able to go in and be part of a family, be part of a team, and with the patient and then their family members being the center. And my goal was to meet their needs. And that was one thing that I learned too, because I always kind of strive for that in healthcare, in family medicine, but in hospice, it really hits home that it's all about supporting the person who's got the terminal illness and their family. It's not about me.
That's a great question, Jeff, because I do think there are parallels there, right? So you have the opportunity to look at people and you see what they wish they had done, the way they wish they designed that last part of their life. Maybe they might have some regrets. I know, and I think it's an analogy that came to me, that I've spent the last 6 months of my career when I announced that I was retiring, almost in my own form of hospice. Because people would kind of say to me at some point, "Oh, you're still here?" Right? And they begin to work around you. And retirement can be a form of death.
Yeah.
Because the world goes on, the company solves problems or the organization solves problems around you. And then pretty soon there's a whole new generation of people that don't remember who you were.
Oh yeah. I think
And
that,
so we all have to kind of face that our part of our career is spent in palliative care or hospice.
I think
But also there's this really incredible point that I think Jeff was getting at, which is, what do we learn from people in that stage of life that we can then say, oh my gosh, I want to make sure I have this in my life for this next stage.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things you learn is that you really would like to leave this life with as few regrets as possible, and with forgiveness. Those are the two key things that I learned. Basically, forgiving other people, but maybe more importantly, also forgiving myself for my what I consider my flaws and my downfalls, my faux pas. So I think forgiveness, and then also, I was a person who was very hard for me to live in the moment, and I've learned to do that better. I think that the other thing is learning to live in the moment. And you do see other people who do have regrets when they're on, talk about their lives when they're in the hospice, but a lot of them have already, their families probably aren't as well prepared as the patients are, actually. And it's really common in hospice. And that's one thing I learned, that no one wanted to talk about it. But then finally, the family said, you can't mention the hospice word, which is not a great idea, in front of the patient. And the patient's sitting there, well, why aren't we talking about hospice in front of everyone? That kind of thing would come out. And so you learn that it's not people don't talk about things that they're uncomfortable with. They don't like to. Death is one of them, and dying is one of them, and also doing a life review is one of them. But people who actually understand that they really truly understand they have a terminal illness actually are fine talking about it, and they oftentimes will help other people around them become comfortable sharing with them. And that's just the way of the world. I don't know if I answered any questions that you asked, but I hope that helps.
Well, Bob, like you say, you woke up one day and said, I think it's time to retire. And so what, given your background, given your experiences, what was kind of a couple of drivers that made you come to that place at that time? Well,
I would say probably maybe that was subliminal. The bottom line was that I usually go with my gut, even in practicing medicine and delivering healthcare. I would always go with my instinct and with my gut in the end. And I can't tell you how many times it actually allowed me to provide better care. And I can tell you that I never really screwed up because of doing that. And I feel really good about that. And literally I woke up and in my gut, I just knew it was that time of my life. Finally, we talked about retirement down the line. My wife wanted me to maybe work till I was 70. So did our financial advisor. And this was this was in 21, I'm 72. So 67 is when I actually decided, just before I turned 67. But I really just woke up in instinct. For me, it was instinct. It was just time to move on. It was time to let go of my professional career, my professional life. And I hadn't been building up towards it. I had been participating in other activities that are equally meaningful for me in life as healthcare was and still is. And so it's not like I ever felt a tremendous loss. It was just time to move forward. And literally I woke up and there it was. It's like when I write songs. Sometimes I just wake up in the middle of the night and I'll have the music and the lyrics and I'll go sit and scratch it out and then work on it the next day. And I just knew. And I don't know if that happens to people frequently, but that's what happened to me.
I don't find that it happens frequently to people. I mean, I think that's a rarity to say, I just had an instinct to retire. I mean, for most people, I think it's a more drawn out thinking process and a lot of testing, a lot of agony, a lot of hopes, a lot of fears and so forth. So you're very lucky, but I wish we could open up your head there and say, well, yeah, there was an instinct, but there had to have been a tipping point of something. Something drives that instinct. Do you have any idea what may have driven that instinct all of a sudden?
Maybe the realization that I had achieved so much in my career. I was very fortunate. I worked for and with an executive director who was incredibly supportive. And so I think I reached a point in my career where I'd accomplished everything that I would probably have been satisfied accomplishing. So I kind of reached that point, and I did not want to be in the way of other people. And I was already beginning to groom people for succession for down the line. I just didn't know when or what was going to happen. And I told people I was going to probably be around till I was 70 or 71, and they liked me, fortunately, and at least that's what they said, and wanted me to stick around. Maybe they didn't, I don't know. It just literally, those were already there. And the fact that we'd been trying to plan for retirement, which I know is a challenge for everyone, it was for us. When I decided that I wanted to retire, we had to sit down and say, can we afford to do that? And we planned. Our planning was good enough that we were able to sit down and say, yeah, we think we can do this. So we did. But subliminally speaking or subconsciously, I think probably what was driving me is that I had other stuff I really want to do. And I knew that, I'm mortal. And it probably clicked in my head that if I'm not going to step away and spend more time doing the other things that I want to be doing in life, because I've devoted so much time to healthcare, I may not get the opportunity. And then, starting in the 60s, we start seeing, friends and celebrities and other people, die more frequently as they approach their 60s also. So our contemporaries begin to drop off this planet. And I think that probably subliminally had an impression upon me. I'm relatively healthy, I'm relatively active, and my mind isn't too far gone yet. And so I thought, why not? This is the time.
So talk about your music. That seems, I'm just guessing from what I see behind you, that's takes up a big part of your life now.
Yes, it does. In fact, I've spent the last 2 months working on a new song that I wrote in January, and I'm going to release it. I'm going to send it in, and if it's approved, it'll be released in 2 weeks. John heard a version of it that was pretty crude, and I think when you hear the final version, John, it'll sound a whole lot better. But music's always been important. All the way back, my folks made me take piano lessons, and I fought it. And in hindsight, I'm really glad I did. I took for 5 years and laid a foundation so I can read music, but I can hear music and play it. I mean, I'm not gifted or anything like that. I struggle with stuff too. And then in college, I got involved with playing guitar, and I was songwriting with a friend, and they were playing in local places around LA, like the Troubadour and the Ice House and places like that. And so I've always played off and on, but I couldn't really improve a whole lot because I'm married, family, a profession. And so I would cycle. I would play for a few months and get really good again, and then maybe not play for 6 months and then have to start all over again 6 months later. But it was always part of me. And since I began writing poetry, lyrical poetry, and then songs in high school, I have continued to do that. So I would write songs off and on. And now I can get up in the middle of the night if I have an inspiration and start working on a new song. So I went and I learned how to play. I taught myself guitar, taught myself mandolin. I can play a little bit of banjo, not much, just strumming. I can't finger pick it well. And I play piano, obviously, and I really enjoy that. And then I have what's called behind me an Irish bouzouki, which is like a giant mandolin. And it's really more for me for rhythm because it takes a giant hand to play lead on that. And I have a very small hand. So doing that, and I did do some home recordings. A friend encouraged me back in the 80s. And so as I got ready to retire, I began to invest. I began upgrading some of my equipment, based on what I could afford, what we could afford. And then learning and then a friend of mine who was already doing it for 5 years, I literally went out to visit him in Arizona, and he walked me through the basics of getting set up. And we're still in touch. And he helps me out at times and vice versa, him probably more than me. But so I began doing that, and I've ended up teaching myself music production. So recording, mixing, mastering, and stuff like that. And then with Elroy Pups, I've got my wife doing more vocals than I am. I don't have a great voice, but So she's been singing vocals. I've got a granddaughter involved who's done harmonies. My daughter plays electric and stand-up bass. I've had her play bass on a few songs when she's not busy. And my son wants to play rhythm guitar since he plays some guitar. So we've made it kind of a family thing. And at the same time, I thought when I retired, I first thought I'm going to teach everyone how to play chess, but I'm not very good at chess. The grandkids, we have 5 of them. So that didn't work out very well. But I began offering lessons. And so now of the 5, 3 of them have been taken from me for 3 to 5 years. And my granddaughter is 16. She comes almost every week for piano lessons. Her brother, who's 13, almost 13, he's taking ukulele from me. And then the youngest one, who's 8 in that family, is taking piano. And we have recitals once or twice a year. And I figure that's my legacy, because I was gone a lot in healthcare. And so hopefully I feel like I'm making some memories with them.
Music is just so wildly different than medicine.
Yes.
I mean, what does it do for you that medicine didn't do for you?
Medicine, the satisfying part about medicine for me was being able to spend time with people. And I'm not the most social person, actually. I really like my solitude, but in healthcare, you got to be social. So I learned how to be social under those circumstances, and being able to spend time with people and being able to help people. I always wanted to do that from the time I was in high school. I wanted to do something where I could actually help people. That's what fit me. So music, on the other hand, feeds my spirit and feeds my soul. It gives me it's kind of hard to put into words, but it gives me, and not satisfaction, it gives me tremendous joy to be able to learn anything related to music. So I like most genres, but to be able to play, I like playing more than listening to other people. I used to listen to a lot of people. I'm a crackerjack when it comes to trivia from like 1960 to 1982, right in there, and the rest is gone. But I actually, I really enjoy just creating. So I will sit down and I like to improvise or riff on the piano or the guitar, and sometimes I just create a song that way. It just feeds my spirit.
Do you have a discipline to your music in terms of time and accomplishments, or is it more inspirational in terms of when you do it and how long and what you do?
It's both. I would like to be able to do things at the moment, but obviously I can't live 100% in the moment. I'm not built for that. And I have family, and we have activities. But now I do have more freedom. There were times when I would have ideas for a song when I was, a healthcare provider, and then I wouldn't want to get up in the middle of the night and work on it, because I'd be getting up at 5 a.m. to go do what I was doing for a living, but now, like, if it's 2 a.m. and it strikes me, I'll come and do it. Or I've spent almost most of my waking time this week mixing and mastering to get this latest song ready for release. And then it's fun, it's challenging, it's fun. I'm always learning something, which I like, because I love learning. And so it provides that for me. And then I get to choose cover art. So I create cover art, usually from photos that I have, so I'm not infringing on anyone's copyrights, but I can manipulate them. And then I look for catchy things. Like, I think if I get enough songs together for an album, I've already decided I want to call it Elroy Pups Unleashed. So that kind of stuff. It's fun.
Yeah, Bob, you're really blessed when you think about it. As we have these conversations, oftentimes people talk about, I've reached retirement. Now I got to think about, what's my passion? What's my purpose going forward? And again, you're blessed in that that's always been there for you, so to speak. And it sounds like it was a kind of an easier transition.
It was really easy for me. I was looking forward to it. Basically, I slept in for a couple of days right after I retired, and then my wife took me on a short trip to visit some family members of hers. And then after that, came back and just kind of lateraled into it. It's one thing that I've shared with, like, the people I collaborate with and with colleagues and anyone else who's interested, and especially for healthcare providers, but it applies to other people in all walks of life, is that unless you're planning on doing what you're doing until you drop dead, and I've seen that happen with other physicians, Nurture what you can while you're raising a family, if that's what you're doing, and working in a profession or whatever, white collar, blue collar work, whatever you're doing, but nurture other activities that feed your soul, feed your spirit, because that's what I did over the years. It just felt natural, and I think that it makes for an easier transition when now I can do more of this. This is going to be really cool.
Yeah. So I think John's right there. You've been very blessed to have an easy transition, but I want to ask you, were there things that were surprises to you that you didn't expect, that were kind of maybe shook you a little, or was it completely smooth? But I'd be interested to hear what maybe you were surprised by or didn't expect.
So I had we have John and Sheila are really good friends, and then we have another couple that we're good friends with who followed us from coincidentally Prescott. They came out here some years ago also, and they retired a few years before I did. And one of the things that Bill told me, he said, you've got to switch gears mentally from saving to spending, because you're not going to, basically from earning and saving to spending. And I was like, I thought, oh, that makes sense. But, I didn't realize what he really meant until we actually retired and put our budget together. And so there haven't been a lot of surprises. Honestly, it's gone really smoothly. I'm trying to think if anything really kind of caught me off guard. Most of the people, I mean, I have friends who I left like from the hospice I worked with, and now we're friends outside of healthcare, and we don't even talk about healthcare. But a number of people who reach out to me, honestly, they reach out, they'll say, hey, let's get together, or let's talk. I want to get caught up. And then during the course of the conversation, I could really use a letter of recommendation or something like that. So people have a tendency from that part of my life to reach out to me more often than not because they want something. And I'm okay with that. And then they, they're gone. And that's okay too. And I'm happy to provide that. But that was kind of a surprise. And I have also found that I am probably less social than before I retired, because like I said, in my profession, I had to be, and I kind of enjoyed it. It was like I got to be a different person than who I really am. But I really do appreciate my solitude and spending more time with one-on-one with people than going to happy hours or going to parties and stuff like that. I'm not doing as much cultural stuff as I thought I would, but so far I haven't missed it. My wife probably does more than me, so I really need to work on that part to make sure that we're meeting her needs in terms of theater and music and spontaneous activities and stuff like that.
How has she adjusted to your retirement, would you say?
I think it was challenging for her at first. Because she's a nurse, but she was already, when we moved out here, she was a legal nurse consultant. She couldn't practice out here anymore. Won't go into the details, but it has to do with state laws and stuff like that. So it wasn't fulfilling. So she left practice and she wasn't doing hands-on nursing anymore. And so she was home. And that helped with the kids and the grandkids who live out here. And she got involved she had been involved in theater. She got involved in dancing. She does competitive country. And she was doing ballroom before that. And I think that having me around all the time at first was a challenge. And and we've had our moments, but I think that we've really worked through it quite well. I would like to think, and I think she does too. She's been a great partner my entire life. We've been married it'll be 42 years this May. And so I feel kind of blessed there also, just like John's been married for what, 52 years. So we're kids compared to him and to Sheila. But and I think that was I think it was more challenging for her, and it may still be at times too. But she gets to travel she has a sister she's really close to, and they go trips on twice a year and things like that. And she's still trying to find her way in terms of what she really wants to be doing now that I'm not working and we're not taking care of family really anymore. And one of the things is dancing, and then she's a seamstress. So she likes to create costumes. She's working on a new dance costume for herself right now.
Yeah, that was an adjustment for us for the grandkids. I was shocked at how narrow the window is when you're really heavily involved in their lives, and it just all of a sudden they don't need you as much anymore.
No.
I mean, they love you as much, but they don't need you as much.
Yeah, we're experiencing that. We still have some of that, which is I think it's nice, and really trying to enjoy it while we can. But yeah, since our oldest granddaughter is now 16, they're like 16, 13, 12, 11, and 8. And the 8-year-old thinks he's going on 20 because he has older siblings and cousins. So we're enjoying that while we can. But then we were talking about just that the other day, that talk about shocks. That'll be a shock. It'll be, the kids are gone. The grandkids are gone. Now we did empty nester already, and now we're going to be doing it version 2. And that'll be interesting. And our kids have their own lives. They both live near us, which is nice, but they have their own lives. And so, adjusting to that. And then we have elderly chihuahuas. They're 15 and going strong, but their average life expectancy is probably 20. But when they're gone, we know we're not going to have any more. We're not going to have any more pets, dogs or cats. And so that'll be kind of a shock to the system and a real change.
So speaking of shocks to the system and talking about the future, so sometimes we like to give our guests a magic wand. So we're going to hand you a magic wand and say, if you had a magic wand, what would the next 10 years look like in the ideal? What would be the perfect or near perfect decade ahead of you? And what does it look like? And what are you doing? And what are your values? And so on.
That's a great question. Well, I'll do the easy stuff first, if that's okay. One, I want to stay healthy. And I don't want to lose my hearing, even though it's going, and I don't want to lose my vision. So far, some visual issues, but that's important, sight and sound, I want to be able to, my wife to have the same, so that we can, basically continue to grow up and old together. I want to be able to travel more. Our traveling's been limited for various reasons recently because of what's going on, in our country and around the world, but also because we have the dogs and it's hard to travel. We do like to go overseas. So we tried to take a couple trips a year. We wanted to be able to do more of that after we retired, and we can actually afford it. We just haven't been able to make it work because of all the other responsibilities we still have to our family and our pets and stuff like that. So I'd like to be able to do that. I would love to be able to continue to improve my musical skills. Behind me, I have, you can't see them, but I'm gonna flip this around. Is that okay?
As long as we don't see your thumb.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Now I got to figure out how to flip myself around.
The thumb doesn't show up good on YouTube.
I don't see how to flip it on here, right? Oh, here we go. And we'll do, hopefully I don't make you dizzy. So that's a wall with some of my instruments. And I would like to get better on banjo. I would like to get better. I'm an acoustic guitar player, but I actually like electric guitars. So I have 3 of them, and I'm just learning how to play lead. I mean, I can strum anything, but I would like to get really good. I'd like to be able to shred on guitar. That would be something I would really look forward to.
So what I'm hearing is that with your magic wand, you want to be 20 years old again. These are the dreams of a 20-year-old involving Fender guitars and Marshall amps and shredding.
It's stuff I couldn't afford and I can't help. But actually, I've got a really nice Roland upright piano. It looks like a regular acoustic piano, which I love to play. And honestly, of all the things I planted, I really prefer playing classical music still. I grew up with that. So, I'd like to get better because I feel like I have more potential, and I'd like to, I talked about not working in a profession until you die, but I would not mind doing music up until the day I die. So look forward to that. I'd like to be able to spend more time with family. Locally, we're doing that, but my wife's got a sister in Lake Havasu City in Arizona on the Colorado River. I'd like to be able to see them more. I have 3 sisters. 2 of them are kind of have estranged themselves from the whole family. And that's another story. And I've tried to, John and I have talked about this because he's had some success with that in his family, but I've been able to actually bring them back into the fold. I've tried. But my youngest sister and I are really close, and she lives in Southern California. I'd like to spend time with her. My older sister's 2 daughters are married and have kids. And although my older sister doesn't talk to anyone in the family, and it has nothing to do with us, it's really weird. But anyway, her daughters do. So I'd like to be able to go out and visit them because we communicate on a regular basis. So I'd like to be able to spend more time doing that. And I got a few friends around the country I wouldn't mind visiting over the next 10 years while I still have legs, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think out of all our guests, and then maybe with the inclusion of John Fassnacht here, you're doing something radically different than what you did professionally. And that's fascinating. And what a great example and comfort perhaps for some of our listeners. Any final thoughts here, Jeff?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm extremely impressed with the transition you've had and that you never gave up on something you had passion about, which helped carry you forward. As you were talking, I was thinking about a lot of the hobbies and interests that I've had over my life that just kind of scatter away.
Yeah.
And so
I have those too.
Yeah, but you kept the one.
Yeah.
And that's pretty amazing. And I think that's really interesting insight. A lot of us kind of try to figure that out once we're done. And it sounds like, no pun intended, you did not miss a beat.
Well, I would also like to offer that for anyone who's listening, and maybe they can reach out through you to me or however that works. If anyone has any interest in developing further musical skills of any sort, I'm happy to share my experience with them. I can do over the phone or FaceTime or something.
Excellent.
Maybe a podcast.
Yeah. John, your thoughts?
Bob, I know you very well. And I think what's so neat is like you gave the advice, nurture your passions and purpose as best you can, during your career time. Mm-hmm. But I think what's so neat is that you blossomed that, and now it sounds like it's even more reinforced and supported because you see it as a legacy that you're leaving behind for your grandkids.
Yeah.
So, what more could you ask for than to be engaged in something that is personally satisfying and like you said, feeds your heart and soul, while at the same time kind of leaving something behind that your grandkids will cherish and remember you by.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that would have been lacking in my life until I hit upon offering the music lessons to them. And I don't make them come here, and I've offered to pay for professional instructors, but they want to just come in, and they keep coming and want to, and that's fine. And so I have that legacy, which was a big bonus because I kind of always felt like I would be the forgotten grandparent, because I was gone so much. But so it's satisfying.
So Bob or Bib or whatever your name is.
Bibbidi Bob.
Thank you for coming by and talking to us. We've enjoyed this a great deal. As usual, we get into some conversations here, and there's so many strings we could pull on and talk about, but we appreciate the overview you've given us of your experience. Again, to our listeners, hey, leave a comment below wherever you're listening to this. If you have something, if you're retired or retired adjacent or are facing a next stage of life decision, reach out to us. We'd love to build a list of potential guests and talk to you as well. Again, you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. And we look forward to talking to you next time. And again, thanks for tuning in.